Well, hello gamers, Mezso here, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at a game that's largely flown under my radar until a good friend of mine pointed it out. And he only really needed to mention a couple of key words to spark my interest, and they were Vikings, Norse mythology, survival, co-op. Anyway, I was hooked. This is a game I had to look at. And for those of you that haven't heard of this game, it's just come out yesterday in fact, and it's called Valheim. So the game is basically an open world survival crafting building type co-op set in a time or a place of Norse mythology, and essentially you're a Viking soul that has been brought to Valheim, the 10th North world, to kill Odin's ancient rivals and win honour and get yourself back to, or not back to, but travel from death on earth to the halls of Valhalla, where you can live as a mighty warlord and celebrate your wonderful adventures with other Vikings. But to do that, as I said, you've got to prove your worth in Valheim, which is sort of a middle place of waiting, as it were. So today I just thought it'd be really fun to give you quickly my overviews on the game, have a look or discuss some of the basic mechanics, and have a bit of a dig into how the game plays. So as I said at the beginning, it's an open world game, survival and crafting. You get to build a lot of things, and we'll go into that later. But the really good thing here as well is that it's co-op, online co-op, and you can play between 2 to 10 players. And of course you can run your own dedicated servers as well. So for those of you that don't like griefing and PvP, and who does like griefing, I know I don't, as you guys know from my Barotrauma videos, then this is a pretty good approach to take by the developers. So first up, let's talk about graphics. And as you can see from the screen, they're pretty basic. It's got a bit of a nostalgic charm to it. It kind of reminds me of the early days of Warcraft or Warcraft Classic. And for those of you that are familiar with Coffee Stain Publishing's work in the past, that's kind of how Deep Rock Galactic started as well, real pixely basic graphics. And I think there's a charm to that. So I didn't mind that too much. Some people are going to say that it's not their cup of tea, and of course I respect that, but it's a decision the publishers made. It'd be interesting to see how the wider community views it. The sound is pretty basic, nothing to write home about, but there's some nice ambient noises. And I should put a caveat in here as well. I've only played the game for a couple of hours, so I haven't got extensive experience of the game at this stage. But at the moment, the sound works. Gives you little tells when you're leveling or when your crafting is complete and so forth. So it works pretty well. And the walking feels pretty heavy, which I quite like, because obviously you're doing a lot of it. Load times at the moment seem pretty non-existent, but again, I haven't played into the game that far, so maybe there's a bit more loading down the track. But certainly I haven't noticed any at all, and for a procedurally generated world, that's pretty impressive as you explore the area around you. It's got a character creation element to it, which I'm showing you here. It's again very basic, but got a few hairstyles and beards that you can play with, but it's certainly got enough variety to create an individual looking character for the multiplayer world. Next up is the material grind. This is a survival game. You're going to be grinding for materials, wood, stone, flint, etc. And I'm sure there'll be lots of other things to explore. So far the game progression seems okay. It's certainly not painful. It doesn't take too long to acquire stuff. And there's kind of a nice mechanic to cutting down the trees as well. Obviously you've got to improve your weapons or your tools to cut down bigger trees. But when they fall, they can squash you. And in fact, they can knock over other trees as well, which you'll see in this clip. The combat again is fairly straightforward. You've got the block, you can attack, you can do a heavy attack, I think when you're not carrying weapons, which is a kick, and dodge as well. So a little bit Soulsy, I guess, but I haven't found the combat particularly challenging at this stage. Again, very early on in the piece, pretty much just clobbing stuff to death without any real challenge, but I'm very confident that'll change later. And it'll be interesting to see if magic features in this game. At the moment, I've just found that it's just sort of normal melee weapons to pick up, and no doubt bows down the track. In fact, there are bows down the track, and I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one. From a travel perspective, it's all walking at this stage. I'm not sure that there's mounts in the game at the moment, but there's definitely boats. We're going to be able to build rafts and indeed longboats, and I'm really looking forward to that. That's something that really intrigues me and I like to do. Survival mechanics are not burdensome, I wouldn't describe at this stage. There's a hunger bar, and the hunger appears to affect your health, so that's nothing that's out of control, and you're certainly not eating every 5 seconds. And so far food seems pretty easy to come by, but I'm sure that will change as I go deeper into the game. There doesn't appear to be any drinking, but there's certainly buffs that you can get as well, and debuffs from being cold, rested and so on. So there's some depth to it there. It seems that you gain levels in skills by performing tasks, so kind of like Fallout. The more fighting you do with a certain weapon, your skills will get better in that. Swimming, running, even jumping for that as well. So how that affects the actual actions, I'm not sure. I'm guessing when you gather crafting materials, you'll be doing it faster. Running will drain less stamina, or maybe be faster and so forth. But I'm sure that'll become more apparent as I play more of the game. Death is a factor, of course, and anyone that's seen the advert sees them talking about that. And yes, you can be squashed by trees, which is pretty cool. At this stage, the only thing that seems to happen is that you lose some skill points and drop the loot or your goods that you're carrying at the time, which you can get back by picking up the backpack where you died. So again, nothing groundbreaking there, but pretty satisfying approach. At least death has some penalty, and I think we all want that in a game. Respawning occurs at the loading point that you jump into the level, or later on you can build a bed and use that as your spawn point. Talking about beds and equipment and furniture, you can of course build buildings as well, and this looks like this could be something that people will really get into, with quite a detailed level of building structures and shapes and so forth. I found that whilst the building parts click together, it did feel a little bit clunky early on, but again, that's just me needing to get used to the game and the controls. And overall, I didn't find grinding for the material was too difficult. And talking about material, moving on to crafting, as you gather the materials, you seem to unlock new recipes for different things that you can then build. And this is all done, at the moment at least, it's all activated by being near or at the workbench, which gives you your recipes and tells you the materials you need to build those things, such as tools or fires or cooking racks and so forth. So overall, I'm loving it. It's a really fun little game. It's definitely something I'm going to be playing a bit more of. It's day one of early access. There's loads to go here. It's backed by some great developers in Irongate who produce Satisfactory, and of course the publishers have been involved with games like Deep Rock Galactic and so forth. So I think it's going to be really well supported. I'm really looking forward to playing more of it, and I'm definitely going to be bringing more of this to the channel. Hopefully next with some beginner tips and a playthrough, of course. I'm going to try and drag some of my friends in to play this with me. So if you like this video, feel free to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notifications of when the next Valheim video is coming out. For now, Mezso out.